In this area, wild boars are no longer a rare story. Local authorities have repeatedly recorded their frequent appearance around farms, even issuing recommendations for population control to limit ongoing damage. When we arrived, what we saw made it clear that the problem was far from small. The ground had been torn into long strips, and the forest edge was covered with overlapping tracks of both large and small animals. But in situations like this, acting hastily often leads to mistakes. Any control measures must be carried out properly and in accordance with regulations. So before anything began, we worked with local authorities, completed the necessary permits, and agreed on a control plan using net traps. Only after everything was approved did the plan move forward. The first step was not setting up the net immediately, but carefully surveying the terrain. We selected an open patch of ground located directly along a movement corridor, with a line of trees behind it to block visibility and enough open space in front for the herd to enter naturally. Once the location was finalized, the team began assembling the trap frame. Posts were driven deep into the ground, and the lower edge of the net was firmly secured to the soil to prevent it from being pushed up. Every detail was checked twice. Even a small gap could allow the entire herd to break free within minutes. When everything was finished, the trap door was left open. We then began the baiting phase. Camera footage recorded an adult boar approaching the trap. It moved slowly, sniffing the air before cautiously stepping inside. Everyone held their breath. Then the trap was triggered. The net closed quickly and cleanly. The boar panicked, turning around to search for an escape, but there was no opening. Just one animal, but enough for us to confirm that the trap structure worked exactly as intended. It was an important test. That success helped us finalize the formula for the first trap. Once we were confident in the system's stability, we continued building additional traps in areas where signs of destruction were most concentrated. Each location was adjusted to fit its terrain, but the core principles remained the same. On a known movement route, natural visual cover nets firmly secured several nights of baiting before activation. Everything was done quietly and patiently. Then night came quickly. At the eastern trap, thermal cameras recorded several adult boars appearing first. They walked straight in, as if already accustomed to entering to feed and leaving afterward. When a number inside was sufficient and no individuals remained outside, the net was triggered. Heavy footsteps pounded the ground as soil sprayed into the air under the infrared glow of the cameras. Solid bodies slammed into the edges of the net, shaking the entire structure. For the first few seconds, everything was chaotic, but the structure held. Several adult boars were now contained inside. At another trap not far away, the situation unfolded very differently. A large herd emerged from the forest edge. They did not rush. The lead animal stopped for a long time, sniffing the air and even circling the edge of the trap. One by one, they stepped inside, but always keeping distance from each other. Time passed painfully slowly. Triggering too early would mean capturing only a few animals. Waiting too long could mean losing the opportunity entirely. Finally, when most of the herd had entered deeply and the last animal had just crossed the net boundary, the signal was activated. The net closed. The entire herd turned in panic. The sound of bodies crashing echoed through the night. But this time, there was no escape.
Nice. There you go.
As morning light appeared, we began checking each trap one by one. The largest trap made everyone pause for a few seconds. Inside was a herd of mixed sizes, adults and juveniles together. Young animals pressed between the larger ones, and the ground beneath them had been torn apart during a night of desperate attempts to escape. At another trap nearby, 3 adult boars had been captured. They remained alert, constantly turning their heads at the sound of movement. We did not rush in. The team maintained a safe distance, inspected the net carefully, observed the situation, and only then proceeded to the next step according to the prepared procedure. After confirming that everything was stable, the captured animals were handled using humane methods, in accordance with local regulations, ensuring safety for everyone involved and avoiding impacts on other wildlife in the area. There was no rushing, no reckless action. Standing among the traps that had just been checked, I realized the most important thing was not the number of animals captured, but the fact that the problem had been controlled properly and at the right moment. If only individual animals were removed, the rest of the herd would quickly return and learn to avoid the traps.
In many rural areas, wild hogs didn't start out as a major problem. At first, they were just a minor nuisance. But over time, their numbers exploded, and so did the damage. Fields torn up, crops destroyed, ecosystems thrown off balance, and real safety risks for people. In the United States, feral swine have now been documented in at least 35 states, with agricultural damage and control costs estimated in the billions of dollars every year. So, the question is no longer whether we should control wild hogs. The real question is how to do it effectively and responsibly. Wild hogs are highly social animals. They move in groups, learn fast, and become extremely cautious after bad experiences. When you remove hogs one by one, the rest of the sounder quickly wise up, making future control exponentially harder. That behavior forces managers to shift their thinking. Control the whole group, not individual animals. Pig brig is a trap system designed around how wild hogs actually behave, feeding together as a group, lowering their guard once they feel comfortable. Instead of triggering too early, the system allows the sounder to enter and exit naturally, managers to observe and estimate group size, and activation only when the entire group is inside. This approach prevents the single biggest cause of failure in hog control, leaving survivors behind. The most important rule in wild hog control is this: don't turn it into a chase. Once you spook the group and send them scattering, you might catch a few, but you lose the chance to solve the problem for good. When hogs believe everything is normal, that's when you can close the door on the entire sounder. Clean, safe, and effective. Trapping with pig brig doesn't start with rushing in. It starts with observation and patience. Managers first identify high-traffic areas, places where tracks, routing, and signs show consistent group movement and feeding behavior. The modular net system is then set up with enough space for hogs to feel comfortable entering, without feeling cornered or threatened. Early on, the priority is conditioning and monitoring, allowing hogs to move in and out freely. Only after the group size and movement rhythm are clearly understood does the team choose the right moment to contain the entire sounder in a single activation. This reflects a core principle of wildlife management. Success doesn't come from speed, it comes from precision and timing. The use of monitoring equipment reduces the risk of non-target captures, prevents premature activation, and, most importantly, increases safety for the people doing the work. For many US communities, this is critical. Wild hog control must comply with local regulations, prioritize safety, and minimize unnecessary conflict.
4th of July barbecue. We're all the little guys.
Effective hog control rarely comes from one person working alone. The biggest differences usually come down to three things. Coordinated timing. If each landowner acts independently, hogs simply shift from one property to another. Accurate information sharing. Tracks, time windows, travel routes. The clearer the picture, the stronger the plan. Targeting the whole sounder. Piecemeal removal only makes hogs smarter and damage lasts longer. You don't beat wild hogs with luck. You beat them with a plan.
Mercy.
The wild hog crisis shows one hard truth. Big threats often start quietly. Only when people take the time to observe, understand natural behavior, and act with strategy does real, long-term control become possible. Pig brig isn't just a trap, it's an approach. Understand the sounder, be patient, move at the right rhythm. Close it out in one clean moment to reduce long-term damage. When communities work together and do it right, crops are protected, safety improves, and balance can be restored. And sometimes, the way we set a trap reflects the way we choose to protect the future. Note: this video focuses on management and safety perspectives. All methods must comply with local regulations and should be carried out by experienced individuals.
I didn't even film it for that either. That's a
For 3 weeks in a row, I woke up to see the field torn apart as if a battle had swept through it overnight. The devastation said everything they had come back, and this time it was the entire herd. I had no other option. We decided to set a drop gate trap. This wasn't the kind of trap meant to catch a single animal. It was designed to seal in the whole herd in one decisive moment. Either it worked completely, or it failed completely. I spent the entire day setting the trap with absolute care. After days of studying the tracks the wild boars had left behind, that afternoon, I stood there for one final check. The steel gate hung, suspended, waiting for the slightest trigger. Everything had to be exact, because there would be no second chance. When night fell, no one spoke much. All attention was fixed on the surveillance screen. Near midnight, the herd began to appear. They sensed something unusual about the structure, yet they couldn't resist the bait we had prepared inside. One by one, they stepped in, hesitant, alert. They were inside. I nearly held my breath, waiting for the last boar to cross the threshold. In that split second, I pressed the trigger on my phone. Then suddenly, crash! The heavy steel door slammed down onto the ground. In an instant, the exit was sealed. Chaos erupted. Snarls burst out in waves. The entire herd lunged at the enclosure like a storm. They rammed the steel mesh, clawed at the earth, spun frantically in search of escape. Flashlight beams swept across dark. Muscular bodies collided in desperation. A massive boar charged straight at the gate. The impact split the night with a harsh metallic crack, but the door did not move. They were locked in. In that moment, adrenaline surged through me. Weeks of tension exploded all at once. But it wasn't over. The next morning, while we were still dealing with the first trap, my phone vibrated again. The sensor in the southern section had been triggered. The second trap. This time it was broad daylight. Under the clear light, I could see the panic in their eyes more distinctly. No darkness to hide it. The gate was shut tight. The herd was compressed into a narrow space, circling, crashing into one another in desperation. Before we could steady ourselves, another alert came through. third trap had fallen. In less than 24 hours, 3 steel gates had dropped one after another. The herds that had devastated the field were now contained within the traps we had spent weeks preparing. At last, the field was quiet again. No more sleepless nights. No more chaos in the dark. But as I stood looking toward the forest, I understood something I had never truly thought about before. We hadn't really won. We had only reclaimed a stretch of silence. And sooner or later, it would test us again.
What would you do if a single night could wipe out an entire harvest? For American farmers, traps are often the last line between control and total loss. Wild boars don't just pass through. They return in herds, on schedule, night after night, almost by routine. They don't cause damage because they eat too much, but because of what happens when they root the soil. In just minutes, topsoil is overturned, roots are torn loose, and irrigation systems can be damaged along the way. Agricultural losses in the US are estimated at around $2 to $2.5 billion per year, and many total crop failures begin with what looks like minor rooting damage. A single herd of 10 to 20 boars can destroy more than 1 hectare in one night, right when crops are reaching maturity. At that point, this is no longer a natural risk. It becomes a livelihood problem farmers are forced to confront. Facing that threat, many ask the same question. Is there a way to stop wild boars while remaining safe, humane, and environmentally responsible? The answer lies in modern trapping systems. Contrary to popular belief, today's traps are not designed to harm wildlife. They are built to control intrusion safely, reduce direct conflict between humans and boars, and comply with local ecological management regulations. Their evolution reflects a clear goal, not elimination, but behavior guidance, protecting crops while maintaining balance between agriculture and nature. The effectiveness of these systems becomes clear night after night. Farmers no longer need to stay on constant watch. Instead, they can monitor, assess, and adjust control measures proactively. Fields gradually stabilize. Damage is contained. More importantly, people regain control over protecting the results of their labor. Calmly, deliberately, and with a plan. In many places, farmers don't see wild boars as enemies. They understand these animals are part of the natural world. But when survival boundaries are crossed, finding a balanced solution becomes necessary. Used correctly, traps serve as a middle ground, protecting crops, reducing conflict, and preventing more serious consequences down the line. Sometimes it's even shared casually in conversation. Since we set the traps, the boars haven't come back, and I've been sleeping better too.
Welcome.
For farmers, wild boars aren't just a wild image deep in the forest. They can become a direct threat to crops, income, and an entire year of work. Wild boar control isn't an extreme measure. It's a necessary choice when survival boundaries blur. When traps are used properly, they aren't meant to remove nature, but to preserve balance between people and the land. And sometimes it's a single timely decision, quiet, measured, without confrontation, that saves the entire harvest.
Here he goes, here he goes, here he goes, here he goes, here he goes. There you go.